Hi everyone. So this is our follow-up video for the test case where we actually saw that our test suite is actually failing when we run all the tests with the introduction of our new test case for the customer editor. And I just pushed that to GitHub, and as you see, it's actually still failing. So we somehow have to find out how to fix that. And as we already saw last time, it has something to do with the test data. And as you can see here, it's just a particular customer object that was expected, but it was another one in this customer browse test case. So this, very much relates to the fact on how we clean up our test data. And as you might remember, in this customer browse test case, we actually configured here this test data setup via this mechanism that we store a reference to this customer object. And when we save that, we just keep this reference. And at the bottom here, we do an after each teardown method, which is basically just remove this method once, this customer once again. So this is one option on how to do that. In the customer edit screen, or in the test case here, it's a little bit, let's say, a little bit more problematic because we don't actually create an object in the database beforehand because we simply want to test out the create new functionality. It would be possible to store this here because we also create an instance of the customer, and probably there is a way because at this point the customer already has assigned an ID that we can also remove this one, and so this probably should also do the trick. But what I was just thinking is that we could also just clean up our whole test database. And so perhaps let's take a look on how to do that. So first, let me just pull up this command window here for you. So in the setup method, what we can do, just interact with the data manager in order to remove all the objects from a particular table. And we could either do that via plain SQL or just the APIs from the data manager itself. But this is what I will do right now because it's just the most obvious way to do it. But there are here also various ways on how to do that. So what we can do is call load, and then we say customer class, and then there's a method called all, which just gives us not by any kind of condition, and then we have a list, and this means we can just keep track of this customer list here, and basically for all customers we could do some kind of operation, which is in this case the data manager remove, and then it would be the customer at hand. So, or we could also, I normally name this lambda variable here it, because it just refers to the item that we have in the stream. Let's quickly change that to just doing it in a direct for each loop, which is the equivalent of that. And so first of all, let's just comment it out and see that our test is actually still failing when we run it like this, and then we can see if this already resolves our problem. So it actually worked. So it might be because I have cleaned up my test database beforehand. So let's just run that once again. Yeah, so now it's failing once again. So this is, would be even a more problematic situation than we have, because, if you have a clean database, then the first time it actually succeeds. Okay, so this is actually an interesting behavior. But still, it clearly has to do something with the test database. So, what we probably can do is, just in order to not have any kind of flaky test, just clean up our stuff that we do after each test case. So this is the first way how we can do that, and then let's just run it a couple of times and see if this already resolves the flakiness, and then we can see how we can improve this situation even further. So I will just continue to run that for like, I don't know, 5 times or something like this, and then we see either that it still is failing for some reason or not. So this looks already a little bit better. Yeah, I would say that it's actually just fine. So let's just assume that this actually solved the problem. Okay, so it actually didn't. What we potentially could also do is just test this very same thing here before we actually do any kind of further work. We also, in the customer browse screen, just get rid of all the data that is in the customer database. So let's run that a couple of times again. And yeah, this is really, like a nasty problem, and which is why it's so problematic to deal with, and also important to get it right, because if you have a test suite that is actually flaky, then normally the trust will go down into this test case altogether, and people will start thinking, okay, so this is just not working because of a particular reason, and I don't care, just rerun it or whatever. And it's just that people more and more lose trust in this whole thing. So yeah, therefore proper test suite is good, but a non-flaky test case is even, or a non-flaky test suite is even better. And yeah, so from this point of view, it's good that we now see the problems early on, and that we can try to fix them immediately. So all right, assuming that this is actually solving the problem. If it's not, then we will find out later, but let's just assume it is. We can improve the situation here a little bit. So first thing is that right now we actually do a remove on every item on manually. So this means it actually creates multiple transactions, and does all the stuff every time. This actually slows down the whole thing a little bit. So what we can do is there's a possibility to remove multiple entities here, or you can also save a particular save context. And this is what we are going to do. Remove context, let's call it. And this will be of type save context. And yeah, so what we can do here, so save context is, you can think of it like a bag where you put your stuff in that you would like to change. You put all the objects in that you would like to either save or remove, and then at the end you just pass on this reference to the data manager, and then this does the heavy lifting, and in particular put that into one transaction. So this means that we have to change here this slightly, because now we want to say remove context punct dot removing actually, and then it will be it. And now IntelliJ says we can actually replace that with a lambda expression, which is also fine. And then we can save that here. So yeah, this should actually do the same trick. Let's just for now copy it over to this place here and see if the tests are actually still running. And if they do, then potentially we can think about another way of expressing that, because right now it would require in every test case to do this particular thing. So probably it's good to extract that logic into a dedicated bean. Okay, seems to be fine. Then what we can do here is just create a new Spring Bean, which would be database, or let's say test data cleanup or something like this. And yeah, the method, so since this is a component, we can inject our DataManger here as well. Let's call it properly. This was the wrong import. And well, perhaps actually it's better to call it database cleanup to make it a little bit more clear on what we are cleaning up here. Okay, and this means that if we, get a reference to, or just do an auto wiring of this database cleanup bean, what we probably can do is by moving this to clear. So probably this is now a candidate we can once again move, and this would be now a method of this particular object here, this database cleaner. IntelliJ warns me that it actually doesn't really work like that, because right now we have a dependency on this data manager, and it doesn't understand that I also auto-wired a dependency in this database cleaner. So for now, I will just do it like this. And since it didn't understand, it also tried to solve my problem here by doing a reference to this data manager through this other class, which we actually don't need. So yeah, let's just do it like this here, and also the same goes for here, and here we will say database cleanup as well. So let's run the tests once again and see if everything's still fine. Okay, so there's a wrong import. But with that, hopefully everything is actually fine. And if you look at it at the test method here, or at this helper method, then it's actually almost irrelevant on which entity this is. It can be any kind of an entity, so probably we can take that as a parameter here in order to make this method a little bit more generic, and for further cases we can just do the same thing. So let's do that. Let's trade. So this is command option P on the Mac, and on Windows command Alt P, I guess. So this will just extract a parameter, and this will be the entity class. In this case it will be of type T, and here we just declare T to be just the generic type, and then this will also be a list of type T, and then all entries or all entities. We could also do it like this, but what is probably also possible is to don't have this parameter, or sorry, this variable at all, and instead just do it like this. So with that, we now don't have any dependency to this one here, and instead we just pass in which entity to clear up, or to perhaps we now should also remove this method and instead remove all entities, with perhaps now a better name. So with that, let's just run all of our tests once again to see that we now have everything in place that we want. All right, so this seems to be fine. And probably also what we can do is do the very same thing here. So because this is also just an integration test running against the database. So probably, this is like a general mechanism on how to do that. So we can just take all of this part here as well. So we can, just do that as part of our initial setup. We'll just get rid of this method. And then we also would like to outer wire this this dependency here. So let's see if this also continues to work. It doesn't, and probably this is because, actually I didn't set up my my local environment for Postgres. Okay, so we don't have anything running, so I would assume that it's safe to start the Docker service. Okay, so this should be just fine. So hopefully the database integration test will also work. And here is actually the difference, because this integration test on the customer here, they are actually working against the Postgres, and with the help of this auto-configure test database, we actually use the HSQLDB. So yeah, all right. So here we have another thing to do, which is also good that it shows us this one, because this removal operation from the remove all entities we cannot actually do without this system authenticator context. So this will be another auto wiring that we need to do. And actually this system, and then it would be, just a so this is basically what we have to do, and probably now this hopefully will actually work. The reason why we don't need this in our UI tests is because here in this UI test annotation, you actually say which is the user that we actually are interacting as. For this database integration test, we have not set up this in any shape or form. It's just a regular Spring Boot test. So this is the reason why this now causes actually a problem. All right. So this means we can now finally run all of our test cases and see that they are actually running, and then it should also be fine. For the validation here, since we don't do any kind of storage of the database, it would also be fine to not do it. As you see here, so the DataManger is only needed in order to create an instance, but it's not actually used for storing any kind of a data. And the same goes here for the customer validation test. So with that, let's actually finish up this exercise. Okay, so with that, I think we now finally are at the point where we have solved our breaking tests, and we can close this whole topic. So thanks for watching, and then see you next time.